Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. So, second official movie of 2017 now, I believe. As I wrapped up the rest of 2016. And yeah, now I think we're 2 movies into 2017 with a lot more to come. Today we're talking about monster trucks. I kind of knew what this one was going to be going into it, but wow, not at all what I expected. Not necessarily in a good way. So this is the newest movie from Nickelodeon Studios, their ventures into doing more movies again for some reason. They had this bit where they were doing a couple based on their old, game show TV shows, like they did Legends of the Hidden Temple a while back as a movie instead of the game show that it used to be. And that one wasn't necessarily great. I did see it, but never reviewed it. But it wasn't really all that great. It was just kind of like, hey, remember all this stuff from the show? Well, here it is as kind of a movie. But now we have Monster Trucks, which I don't recall ever being a show or anything else. It's just kind of like, hey, we had this idea. Let's make a movie out of it. And that's Monster Trucks. So what is Monster Trucks about? Well, you would think it'd be about trucks coming to life as monsters or some type of monsters that look like trucks or something. No, it's about sea creatures. So, how does the movie begin? Well, we start out with this kid. His dad's not in the picture anymore. He's being raised by his mom. His mom has a new boyfriend who's not necessarily a bad guy, he just doesn't really like him, they don't really get along, but they're never really around each other that much, so it's like they never really got a chance to get to know each other to really like each other. So the kid works at the junkyard after he's done his school every day, scrapping out cars and everything, and his dream is to get a car so he can get out of this small town and go live his life and have some adventures. And the guy that owns the junkyard is letting him piece together a vehicle out of scrap from the yard. Like if a car comes in, it's completely demolished, but it has a decent motor. And he's like, well, it's probably the only thing of any value left on the car. And the kid's like, well, this is a pretty good engine, it'd fit right into the car that I'm building. And the owner's like, oh, okay, you can have it. We'll just scrap out the rest of it for, scrap price of metal or whatever we can get out of it. You can have the big expensive motor, because yeah, that's what your boss would do and not make you pay for it or work for free for the next year or whatever to pay for it. So he's piecing together this car, and then there's the B story of the oil company, who's drilling a new pipeline, and as they're surveying the area, they find a water pocket. And they're like, okay, well, that's normal. We find water pockets all the time. Just drill through them. And they say, well, it's a certain distance under the earth. I think it was like 2 miles under the earth. And because of that, it may not be a normal water pocket. It might have indigenous life in it, and it's been undisturbed for so long, we could be disrupting the entire ecosystem by drilling through this. And he goes, okay, well, at least break through into the chamber, and we'll see what the camera sees, and then we'll go from there. So they break into the chamber, and they see bioluminescence. And they're like, yeah, that's definitely a sign of life. And he's like, well, that could just be dust particles reflecting the light of the camera. So they start to drill down a little bit more, and they hit something. And, you can visibly see a creature fly past the camera. And then all the equipment starts going haywire, and the pipe's about to explode and everything. And instead of just gushing up water or oil or whatever, it shoots out 3 giant monsters, who are basically like these giant squid shark-looking things. But the thing is, these ones can actually breathe and walk on land without being succumbed to gravity, which they actually mention, if you put a octopus or something on land, it can only move for a short time before gravity kind of crushes it because it's used to moving through water and not having gravity affect its body. Even though underwater you're under more pounds per square inch of pressure than being out here in the atmosphere, so I don't really understand that whole scientific logic. Either that or Nickelodeon just didn't bother to do the research and didn't understand how septopods work. So they say that something like that wouldn't be able to survive outside of the water environment, even though it can. And 2 of them they managed to capture. The 3rd one makes its way, guess where? To the junkyard, where the boy finds it, reports it to the police, which his mom's boyfriend is the sheriff, and thinks he's just trying to bullshit him just to give him some grief and cause him trouble. And he doesn't believe him. He goes, you waste my time filing these false reports. I'm going to have a talk with your mother, because you're really disrupting my workflow and everything. He's like, no, I'm telling you the truth. He goes, I've had enough. Just drop it. Well, then the oil company doesn't want anyone knowing about these things, so they go to the police station and say, has anyone filed any odd animal reports? And they say, yeah, a guy over at the junkyard did, and the sheriff's like, well, we ruled that out as a hoax, don't bother yourself with it. So the oil company make their way over to the junkyard to investigate this story of a wild animal, but at this point the kid's already caught the creature and has started befriending it and taking it in as a pet, which happens in these movies. So when the oil people show up, he goes, oh no, it turned out it was just a coyote. He knocked over a bunch of barrels, and I thought it was something bigger, but it wasn't. It was nothing. So they're looking around, they don't find anything. And it turns out that while the creature was trying to hide, it crawled up into the body of this truck that the kid's been building. Like into the undercarriage, and has like wrapped itself all around all the internal stuff, and kind of is like a hermit crab where it can pick up a shell and just kind of crawl into it, and that becomes the hermit crab's home until it decides to move on to another shell. That's basically what this Sharktopus did. It's half shark, half octopus, half hermit crab, I guess. So it turns out that the Sharktopus whatever can touch things and kind of get a grasp of how they work. Like he touches a screwdriver and he realizes that it's for unscrewing and screwing in bolts. And like touching the vehicle, he kind of gets the gist of what it does. So the way he wraps his body up and tentacles up into the car, he can kind of drive it, basically. So the boy says, okay, well, if he's going to be stuck in there, he's going to be my new engine. So he starts to modify the vehicle to where it fits him more comfortably and he can control certain things better. Like he can open and close a visor in the grill. So when I want you to go, I'm going to open this so you can see, and that's when you go. If you can't see, you don't move. So that's kind of the gas pedal, and he gets him used to, like, when I turn the wheel, you turn the way I want you to go, and a few other minor adjustments like that, and basically turns this truck that he's been building into a monster truck, putting it up on bigger monster truck wheels and whatnot, just so there's clearance for this creature. And that's where we get monster trucks. Well, why is it called monster trucks then, not just monster truck, because there's only the one of them? Well, that comes in later. So through the course of time, the oil people find out that the kid was lying, the creature definitely was at the junkyard, and the kid now has it kind of as a pet. So they're following him around, chasing him around, trying to get hold of the creature. And over the course of him getting away, they find this reserve spot to park for the night and kind of hide out, which is actually like the summer cabin of this girl who's been tutoring the boy, who kind of finds out about the creature and gets involved with it too. And she's like, well, you know, my parents have a place outside of town that we use as a summer cabin. No one's ever there. Let's just hide out there for the night. And they wake up the next morning and monster truck is gone. So they use the GPS locator on the truck, or it was actually the boy's phone because he left it in the truck, to find out that it was at the oil company. So, okay, so they track it down to the oil company and they find the other two creatures that are stuck there. And his monster breaks in to try and rescue the other two and ends up getting captured himself. And you find out that the oil company wants to kill the creatures and it's going to poison the water nest that they found them all in case there's any more down there. Wipe out the entire species so no environmentalist will ever shut them down. And they can just continue to drill and get all the oil that they need. So once it's determined that that's what they're going to be doing, one of the professors that works at the oil company, one of the scientists who he's kind of escorting the kids out of the building once the other creature gets captured, he's like, you know, I don't really like this. They're going to kill them all. So I'm kind of on your side. And I have a plan to get them out of here, but I'm going to need your help. So the boy and his girlfriend and another friend and the owner of the junkyard go and get a couple more monster trucks built. So now they have 3 so that they can get the creatures out of the place. So they get the creatures out, they get into the monster trucks. So now you have 3 monster trucks, hence the name Monster Trucks. So then they go on this rampage trying to get back to where the creatures live, get them back into their nest, and stop them, the oil company, from poisoning the water supply and killing them all off. So that's the big climactic battle of the movie, is this big monster truck race, all these trucks racing across open terrain trying to get to this area. Explosions and whatnot. Of course, the boy and his mom's boyfriend eventually kind of reconcile because the sheriff realized that the oil company is up to something and he wants to know what. And when they won't give him answers, he kind of sides with the boy and says, you know, if he's doing something, obviously they're hiding something. I'm going to support him in this, and that kind of reconciles between those two. You know, like I said, they had the big climactic battle. Of course, it's a Nickelodeon movie, so it's for kids, so it's going to have a happy ending. They get back to the watering hole, they stop the poison, and they turn in the oil company. But in order to turn in the oil company, what they end up doing is planting endangered frogs on the land, and they report, hey, you know, I was going past this area and I saw what looks to be this endangered frog, or what appears to be this, like, horned toad or whatever. Aren't they on the endangered species list? So then, of course, environmentalists go out, check it out, find these frogs that they planted on the land, and now it's a wildlife reserve because you can't disturb the natural habitat of these frogs. So the oil company gets screwed either way. The CEO gets arrested for illegal drilling. I guess some other stuff got reported back to other people, probably through the sheriff. So he gets arrested. Doesn't necessarily say the oil company got a big hit, just that person who was doing the bad stuff did. So all the creatures get to live on their own. The boy finishes building his truck, finishes fixing it up and everything, and him and his girlfriend, or now girlfriend, who was just his tutor and just a friend, now they're kind of dating, take off in his truck and go exploring the country. And that's kind of the movie. So, again, spoilers, sorry if you didn't want to know what happened in the movie, but if you're over the age of 11, I doubt you'd really care. You probably didn't go see this movie because it probably looks stupid. I'm not going to say it was stupid. Like I said, I wasn't really bored watching it. It was kind of an interesting take on the whole thing. But it wasn't necessarily monster trucks. Like I said, when I go into a movie that's called Monster Trucks, I would have liked to have seen that somehow these trucks became monsters. Not, oh, here's a monster who just kind of wears a truck as a hermit crab and ends up being able to control the vehicle like he's the engine. And that's why he's a monster truck. He's not a monster truck. He's a monster in a truck. Monster trucks tell me that the trucks themselves are monsters, not a truck with a monster in it. I mean, it's like saying if Frankenstein was driving a pickup in a race, is it a monster truck because Frankenstein's in it? No, it's a monster truck if the truck itself is the monster and just happens to have Frankenstein driving it or anyone driving it. So, like I said, it wasn't a bad movie for a Nickelodeon movie, but it loses some points because of it being called Monster Trucks and not actually being about monster trucks. So what would I give it as far as a star rating? I'd probably give it like a 2.5. Like I said, it does have that one downfall, but overall, I wasn't really bored watching it. The pacing was fine. The story was okay. Everything kind of resolved the way you would expect it to for a kid's movie. And that is judging it based on the fact that it's meant for kids younger than me. So whether or not it would be enjoyable to them, I think it would be. I don't think they would be bored. So that's why it gets a 2.5 above something like A Monster Calls, where I thought the pacing was off and just got a little bit bored with it. This I wasn't really bored with, and the pacing was better. So that's why it gets a higher rating than A Monster Calls, and actually kind of ties with that stupid James Franco movie, which was a decent movie despite the fact that it had James Franco in it, and it was a recap of Meet the Parents. So, yeah, it gets a 2.5. Not much else to say about it other than that. So, again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are down there in the description. Click the bell up there in the corner. Make sure you're getting updates every time I post new content. And until next time, we'll see you after the credits.